Jerry Gidel is ready to comment on the commodity markets and yet on the wild weather now in the United States, right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, we had a significant weather event, especially in the state of Iowa, the heart of the corn belt. So, we didn't have as much impact on the markets as one would expect.
Yes, yes. Well, it turns out that we've had two or three, including today's uh, opportunities for rain events, and it was pretty significant in across Iowa, eastern Nebraska, even maybe up into Minnesota, Wisconsin, and that definitely didn't jump this week's progress numbers in the Western Corn Belt. Now, we did end up having a better than expected, in my opinion, at least, numbers here on the weekly corn number. It's 71% and 52% on beans. Both of those, I think there was a little bit from the previous week it wasn't included, plus last week's push by producers, and that actually turns up that some farms I know about in western Iowa were able to get their corn and soybeans finalized here before this current week of erratic weather. So definitely some of the situations there. But the turnaround is that we had two or three opportunities this week. Not once they got across these fronts coming across the Midwest, once they got towards uh, northern parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. They kind of either went north into Wisconsin or Michigan, or they ended up going down through southern Illinois and southern Indiana. So, kind of erratic patterns here on things. But overall, I think the market became quite concerned about maybe getting the final few percentages here of this year's planted and that. And then this weekend, we've got, well, the events that are happening today that hit Iowa and that. And also, Sunday's another wet day for the 3-day holiday. And then we look at um, some action then on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So I think the market continues to be quite nervous about the U.S. corn and soybean harvest, excuse me, planting progress and that. So that's part of the reason I think we saw these values kind of bubble back up to the recent highs.
Now, in the meantime, the second corn crop areas of central parts of Brazil have been affected by the dry weather, whereas in the southern parts of Brazil, the rainfall is back.
Yes, it's quite a erratic situation for those guys down there. Well, we had that ongoing issue there in Rio Grande was the heart of it, and it did sneak up into Paraná. I'm not sure how much impact it was on Paraguay. We haven't really heard a lot of comments about that, but it's definitely a feature there on that. And then you don't go that much further north in that, and definitely commentary coming out from various sources here about the second crop corn. Uh, there's some talk that, and I have yet seen anything officially from Brazil, but there's some talk that their second crop corn or safrinha corn was like 20% harvested in Mato Grosso. That's I think they were talking about 2 or 3% only this time last year. So that is an interesting statistic to say the least. When you end up having a big advance in uh, your harvest progress, I don't care if it's the U.S. or Brazil or Argentina or wherever around the world, that's really an indication that the crop season has really shortened up. That tends to make a less production potential, and that we haven't seen. Well, actually, I'll take that back. We had three different forecasts this week. One from a new outfit that has some people that used to be at Agri Consultants. They had 100 million expectation for the second crop corn, according to their satellites. Agri Consultants, their number was, I think, 94 million. And then we had Conab back down there at 86 million. So we've got quite a few ranges of ideas there as to what size of crop there is. Sassafras Mercado, overall size of the Brazilian crop around 102, excuse me, 122 to 23 million metric tons, which is kind of where the USDA is at on this year's crop. So we've got lots of opinions out about what Brazil's total corn crop is going to be. At this point, there's still a lot of uncertainties. I feel about the potential of the second crop corn. It was really a tough year for that particular crop because of the fact that we had a delayed plantings of soybeans. Normally, you like to have a lot of that planted by the middle of October, and it was probably the middle of November when it was planted. Then they ended up having some of it had to replant because it was so dry. Then they turned around and rushed it all in late February and early March on their corn up there. They and I think drop some acres out there because of the fact that the weather was so erratic. And now all of a sudden, everybody thinks it's hunky dory. I don't know. I'd have to be cautious about what Brazil's going to turn out to be. But right now, at least, I think the focus here is on the prices here in the around the world is but U.S. planting progress, and also the other thing we don't want to forget about is the issues over in Russia and the Ukraine, the European attitudes there about that crop on wheat, which is can be a feed item in many parts of the world. Boy, there were some people, looking at the combination of weather over there and taking down Russia's crop down to 82. Then this recently we were talking about a 92, 93 million metric ton crop. So things definitely around the world here is starting to get tightened up a little bit because of the crop potential, both in Russia and the Black Sea, and also in South America. And then what do we do with the U.S. here with some of the crops still not planted?
Yeah, so over the next couple of weeks, the work should be intensified in the U.S., right?
Oh, yeah. Well, it once you get past Memorial Day, the amount your yield potential definitely starts waning on definitely corn. Soybeans is always a little erratic. You might be able to have still a good crop of it gets all done by June 10th or something like that. But in general, the whole world and even the U.S. here, once you start pushing things past some of their prime times, what you do is you push the maturity of that crop, and when things happen from, in corn's situation is pollination on a certain percentage of the crop into the hottest portion of the summer. The bean situation, a similar situation there, where the potting might have to be in August, is going to be a higher percentage or even later in the month. And that, so uh, not having timely plannings always puts more risk into what kind of yields we're going to have for the upcoming 2024-25 U.S. corn crop and soybean crop. So that's something that we'll continue to watch closely here in the U.S. and also continue to watch what we just mentioned around the world. This is an interesting issue here. I don't think Ukraine's going to have the capability to be as they really aggressively been marketing this year's crop out the door, and so they're not anticipating a very big crop themselves. If Russia's back, Europe's already had some issues of their crop maturity and that, and then El Nino. It's another round of things that happens in the latter part of this year, and that could be a big factor for Australia and some of the southern hemisphere crops as we get into the fall and winter of next year.
Now, market-wise, we'll have a shorter week next week.
Yes, yeah. I, I was definitely a little cautious about it, this market getting all the way back to some of its recent highs, and it's really kind of poised right there. I'd have to say though that the this particular weekend in the past history of Chicago and U.S. prices has always been a very significant one type situation here. Many times we've had better harvesting, things get it's not harvesting, better plantings on things, and so that's something to keep in mind here. That seasonally, this is if we don't have, and we won't get these numbers, by the way, for our weekly progress numbers until Tuesday night, as we have our Memorial Day holiday here in the U.S. on Monday. So all the markets will be closed here. There'll be some international markets, but not too many of them at this point. So that's another big feature here on this thing. So I guess I'm producers out there uh, that probably I'd only be holding back some 10 to 15% of your production numbers here, or your outputs from last year. And I'd also want to be in that 15 to 20% sold on new crop on corn and soybeans, primarily because these are some of the better prices we've seen. The basis levels are strong. Uh, there's still a possibility in the right combination here of if we really get things slowed down. Now, as I mentioned, some of the eastern Corn Belt areas here, uh, the rains have not been as intense as they have been out in Iowa, and that so there's going to be some areas still have some decent plantings going on here the later part of this week, and maybe even into the holiday itself. So that's a part of it. But right now, at least, this market is. It could be explosive if we ended up having the Sunday night rain really being a major factor across the Midwest and more rains again on Tuesday, Wednesday. That would really put things in an interesting spot at this point. It could break out of these technicals at $7 on wheat and the soybeans here at 12.50 to 12.60, and the corns, their breakout numbers is clear up at 470, 275 type situation, all based on the July options here at this point. So, right now, at least, I want everybody to keep their ear to the ground here and see what's going on in the national weather activities here at this point. Will be the big feature as to what could happen here early next week. So, we'll might not get a chance to talk to until we get the full day of Tuesday in here, but let's keep in mind that that's really the key feature here is how the U.S. the planning progress is continuing here at this point.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
You too, and I hope everyone has a good Memorial Day out there, and